The highway had been empty for miles. Rain-slicked asphalt stretched like a black mirror, reflecting the dim glow of the car's headlights. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan had been driving for hours, chasing the promise of a weekend escape in the small town of Havenbrook, Oregon. It was supposed to be relaxing, a break from city chaos. Ryan, eyes half closed, muttered, "Are we there yet? This place feels weird already." Emily shot him a look in the rearview mirror. "It's called the Blackwood Inn, famous for being historic, or so the website said. At least we're off the crowded tourist trails." Jackson grinned. "Historic, haunted, whatever. I just want a weekend where no one texts me about work." The GPS guided them down a twisting country road. The surrounding forest seemed to close in, mist curling around gnarled trees. Soon, the Blackwood Inn appeared, its dark silhouette looming atop a small hill. It looked smaller online, Emily thought, almost like a forgotten relic. Its windows were dark, curtains tattered, paint peeling. The iron gates squeaked as the wind pushed them. A figure appeared near the entrance, a tall, thin man in a gray coat. His face was pale, eyes unnervingly sharp, and he gave them a slow nod. No greeting, no smile, just the nod. Jackson rolled his eyes. "Well, that's welcoming." The man opened the creaking doors and pointed to the lobby. Inside, dust covered the polished floors, and the faint smell of mildew hung in the air. A grand chandelier swayed slightly, though no breeze entered the room. Emily felt a shiver. "Front desk?" she asked. A voice came from the shadows. "Keys. You have them." A small, squat man emerged, thin mustache, hair slicked back, carrying a tray with 3 tarnished brass keys. He handed them over without a word, then retreated into the gloom. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. The inn's corridors were narrow, lined with portraits whose eyes seemed to lifelike. Emily placed her suitcase in their room and immediately felt the air thicken, like the walls themselves were pressing in. Ryan, trying to shake it off, said, "It's just old wood and bad lighting, nothing more." But as Emily unpacked, she noticed the faintest sound, soft, rhythmic tapping coming from the hallway outside their door. It was slow at first, then faster, like footsteps running on wooden floors. She froze. "Guys, do you hear that?" she whispered. Jackson shrugged. "Probably the old pipes." Then came a low, eerie giggle, followed by a high-pitched whistle that seemed to circle the room. Emily's stomach turned. The room was empty, but the sound came closer. She stepped to the door, nothing. She turned, heart racing, to find Ryan staring pale-faced, pointing toward the corner. A shadow shifted. Not from the light, not from them. Something crouched in the far corner, indistinct, almost human, but wrong. Its head tilted unnaturally, and a soft, childlike laugh echoed through the room. Emily yanked the suitcase closed. "We're staying together, okay? No one goes anywhere alone." Jackson tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. "Yeah, sure, no big deal." Outside, the wind howled. The old iron gates rattled. In the lobby, the tall gray man watched from the top of the staircase, eyes fixed on them, unmoving, silent, and somewhere in the depths of the inn, a door creaked open by itself. The night pressed heavily against the windows of their room. Rain pattered in uneven rhythms, like tiny fingers tapping, testing the walls. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, knees pulled up, listening. The shadow in the corner hadn't moved, but she knew it hadn't left. Jackson and Ryan tried to laugh it off, but even their bravado faltered. "Maybe it's just a coat or something," Ryan said, his voice too loud, too forced. Emily didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the corner, where the darkness seemed deeper, almost pulsating. Then she saw a hand, pale and thin, curling slowly around the edge of the shadow. She gasped. Jackson spun toward her. "Emily, seriously, stop." But it wasn't her imagination. The shadow twisted upward, elongating unnaturally. A soft giggle, like ice scraping metal, filled the room. Ryan scrambled to the door. It slammed shut. "Okay, this isn't funny anymore," Jackson shouted, banging on the door. No response. Emily took a cautious step forward. "We have to see what's happening." The shadow lunged door maybe. The air moved around it, almost pushed by some unseen force. They stumbled backward. Then silence. The kind of silence that presses against your chest, makes your heart beat deafening. Emily's phone buzzed. She grabbed it, hoping for some rational distraction. A message popped up from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have come here." Ryan's face went pale. "This has to be a prank." Emily shook her head. "No one knows we're here." Number 1. Suddenly, a low creaking sound came from the hallway. The friends froze. It wasn't just the unsettling, it was deliberate. Like footsteps dragging slowly toward their door. Jackson whispered, "We should leave." "Now," Emily nodded, but the room was suddenly colder. Frost formed along the window frame, though the heater was running, and then a child's whisper, soft and unmistakable. "Don't go," Ryan stumbled, nearly falling. "Okay, that's it. I'm out." They opened the door. The hallway was long and dark, lined with portraits whose eyes seemed to follow them. The soft giggle from the corner of the room before was now all around them, bouncing from wall to wall, though no one was visible. At the end of the hall, a door slowly opened by itself. Inside, a single rocking chair creaked. It rocked back and forth, though no one sat in it. On the floor, faint footprints of tiny bare feet appeared, leading deeper into the darkness. Emily whispered, "We need a plan." Jackson grabbed a flashlight from the desk. Its beam was weak, flickering. When he shone it down the hall, the footprints were gone, but in their place, a shadow of a small child stood at the top of the stairs, pale eyes hollow, smiling, in a way that shouldn't be possible. Ryan swallowed hard. I think we need to leave, tonight, now." Before anyone could respond, the inn groaned, walls trembling slightly, doors slamming down every corridor. The chandelier in the lobby swayed violently, casting long, spider-like shadows. And from somewhere above, the tall gray man appeared at the railing of the staircase, his eyes fixed on them, and then, in a voice that sounded like dry leaves scraping together, "Some doors once opened should never be closed." Emily, Jackson, and Ryan exchanged terrified glances. There was no ignoring it now. The inn had them, and somewhere, deep in the bowels of Blackwood Inn, something was waking up. The rain had stopped, but the air inside the Blackwood Inn was heavier than ever. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan huddled together in their room, the beam of the shaky flashlight bouncing along the warped walls. Silence reigned. It was the kind of silence that screamed. Emily broke it. "We can't just sit here. We need to know what this place is." Jackson shook his head. "We do not. Not after tonight. Every instinct I have is screaming we leave. Now." Ryan swallowed hard. "If we leave, that thing, whatever's here, it'll follow us. Maybe it wants us to discover something first." Emily hesitated, then nodded. "Okay. We explore, carefully." The trio stepped into the hall. The long corridor stretched like a black tunnel, the portrait's eyes seeming to shift as they passed. Footsteps, soft but deliberate, echoed above. The gray man was nowhere to be seen, but a sense of being watched made their skin crawl. At the far end of the hall, a door appeared ajar. Faint light spilled out. Emily pushed it open slowly. The room smelled of damp earth. It was a storage room, or had been. Now, it was a shrine to something forgotten. Old newspapers were scattered, and in the center, a circle of objects lay on the floor. Tiny dolls with cracked faces, old photographs, and, most disturbing of all, bones, small and human. Jackson stepped back, his stomach turning. "Oh my God, These are children, Ryan swallowed. This explains the shadows, the kids. Emily picked up one of the photographs. It was black and white, worn around the edges. A smiling family stood outside Blackwood Inn, dated 1923. In the back, barely visible, a small child stared directly at the camera face, pale eyes hollow. Her mouth was wide, unnaturally stretched, as though frozen in a scream. A sudden creak made them jump. The floor beneath them shifted slightly, as though the building itself was reacting. Emily's flashlight flickered, and in its dim glow, they saw a faint outline of stairs leading downwards, a hidden trapdoor beneath a rug. Jackson's voice was trembling. "We're not doing that. That's insane. We just leave." But Emily couldn't stop herself. She opened the trapdoor. Cold, damp air poured out, carrying whispers, soft, urgent, crying voices, pleading and laughing at the same time. The three climbed down a narrow staircase into a subterranean space. The walls were lined with shelves full of strange, broken toys, candles, long burned down, left black wax pooling over stone. The air smelled of decay and old wood, and then they saw Ida figure in the corner. Small, hunched, rocking back and forth. It turned its head slowly, eyes blacker than night, mouth twisted into a permanent, cruel smile. A voice whispered, barely audible, "Why are you here?" Emily stepped back. The floorboard beneath her cracked. A cold hand shot out, gripping her ankle. She screamed. Jackson grabbed her, pulling her free. But when they looked again, the figure was gone. Only the faint sound of children laughing in the darkness remained. Ryan's flashlight flickered again, catching something he couldn't believe. The gray man stood at the top of the hidden stairs, watching silently. "UNMOVING. Emily whispered, "We've found something we were never supposed to." Jackson swallowed, voice shaking. "Yeah, and I don't think we're leaving alive if we stay." Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from above. The inn seemed to shudder. The doors to the storage room slammed shut, trapping them in the basement. Whispers multiplied, overlapping, screaming, pleading, mocking. Emily looked around, panicked. There's something in here. It doesn't want us to leave." Ryan swallowed hard, voice trembling. "We need a plan before it decides where it's next." And somewhere above, a low, chilling voice echoed, "You shouldn't have opened the doors. The doors belong to me now." The air in the basement was thick, suffocating, carrying a stench of decay that made Emily gag. Candles flickered, throwing grotesque shadows along the stone walls. The whispers of the children pleading, laughing, crying filled every corner of the room. Jackson's hands shook as he examined the dolls, toys, and old photographs scattered across the floor. These kids, they were all here. His voice barely rose above a whisper. Ryan nodded slowly. Something terrible happened here, and these spirits, they're trapped. Emily's eyes scanned the basement. A bookshelf, partially collapsed, revealed a hidden pile of journals. She picked one up, the leather cracked and worn. Flipping through it, she saw entries dating back nearly a century. The handwriting was jagged, frantic. October 12, 1921. "The children will not obey. They must remain. They are mine." Emily's stomach twisted. Oh my God, these weren't accidents. Someone trapped them here. Jackson frowned. Who would do this? A gust of cold air swept through the basement. The candles flickered violently. From the corner, a shadow shifted, coalescing into the faint outline of the tall gray man. His eyes, hollow and dark, stared at them. He built the inn. A whisper echoed around them. Not from him, another voice, faint, ethereal, coming from everywhere and nowhere. He promised them safety, but claimed them instead. Emily took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. We need to know everything. Why are we here? And why won't they let us leave? A sudden crash from upstairs made them jump. The wooden floorboards shook, as though the building itself were alive. The whispers escalated into screams, then stopped abruptly. Silence thick, suffocating silence followed. Then, in the journals, Emily found the most chilling entry. No one leaves Blackwood Inn once the children's laughter echoes in the hallways. The building hungers. The inn chooses. Ryan's flashlight flickered, catching movement near the stairs. A small figure darted across the basement floor, faster than humanly possible. Its eyes glowed black, mouth twisted in a perpetual scream. Jackson's voice shook. We have to leave. Now. This isn't just a building. It's alive. Emily hesitated. But the gray man, he's here, watching. Why hasn't he stopped us? A low voice rumbled. Not quite human, because you're already part of it. Suddenly, one of the dolls on the floor rolled toward them on its own, its cracked face twisted, eyes seeming to follow them. Emily screamed and kicked it away, but as it moved, she realized every toy, every object was subtly shifting, watching, waiting. Ryan stumbled backward. They're playing with us. They're testing us. Jackson's flashlight flickered again, revealing footprints appearing on the stone floor. Tiny, bare, leading deeper into a shadowed tunnel beneath the inn. Emily swallowed, terror tightening her throat. Do we follow them? A faint, childlike whisper replied, if you want to live, follow. And as the three friends glanced at each other, the gray man's eyes glowed faintly in the darkness above the trapdoor. He smiled not warmly, but in a way that promised danger, inevitability, and horror. They had no choice. To survive Blackwood Inn, they would have to descend further. Into its heart, the tunnel beneath Blackwood Inn smelled of wet earth and rot. Each step echoed, amplified, as if the inn itself were listening. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan followed the faint footprints of the spectral children, hearts hammering. The whispers had returned soft at first, then growing into frantic, overlapping cries. Emily's flashlight flickered violently. Shadows twisted along the walls, shapes that shouldn't exist. Faces formed in the stone pale, hollow-eyed children frozen in screams. Jackson muttered, I don't like this. Every instinct screams we turn back. Ryan swallowed, voice shaking. There's no turning back. The inn, it won't let us. As they moved deeper, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Candles, long burned down, left pools of wax like black blood on the floor. The chamber walls were lined with small alcoves, each holding tiny skeletal remains, toys, and old photographs. Some toys seemed to move slightly, as if breathing. Emily bent down, recognizing faces in the photographs. These are the children from the journals. They never left. From the darkness, a screeching, guttural sound echoed. The shadows in the room coalesced into forms children, but twisted, limbs too long, fingers sharp, faces smiling in unnatural ways. Jackson froze. They're alive, somehow. A soft, mocking voice whispered from everywhere, You shouldn't have come. You shouldn't have come. Suddenly, the gray man appeared at the entrance of the chamber. His eyes glowed faintly, and his mouth twisted into that same cruel smile. They don't like visitors, he said calmly, almost kindly. But they enjoy them. Emily grabbed Jackson's arm. We have to run. The children lunged. Not entirely solid, they passed through the trio like cold knives. One small hand grabbed Ryan's ankle, sending him crashing to the ground. Emily screamed as Jackson swung the flashlight, the beam cutting through the shadows. The shapes recoiled, but didn't vanish. A hollow laugh echoed from above. The gray man raised his arm, and the shadows paused, watching. Follow the path, he whispered, or stay, forever. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan scrambled toward the faint light at the far end of the chamber. Every step was a battle. The floorboards groaned as unseen hands reached for them. Whispers filled the air, and spectral faces emerged from the walls. Screaming silently, they reached a narrow staircase, leading even deeper. Emily looked back. The gray man stood motionless at the chamber entrance, his smile unwavering as the children shrieked, clawing at the walls. Ryan gasped, Are they going to let us survive? Emily shook her head, voice trembling. I don't know, but we have to keep moving. As they descended, the walls of the tunnel closed in, and the temperature plummeted. Their breaths came out in white clouds, and the whispers became intelligible names being called. Promises being made, threats whispered in tones no human should hear. And then, at the bottom, they saw it, a small, stone altar. A single candle burned in the center, though no flame should survive in this darkness. Around it, ancient symbols were carved into the stone floor. The footprints of the children lead directly to it. Hand stopped. Emily felt a chill crawl up her spine. This is what they've been guarding. Jackson's voice cracked. We shouldn't touch it. Whatever this is, it's not for us. But the candle flickered, revealing in its glow the eyes of hundreds of spirits staring from the darkness. The whispers rose into a deafening chorus. Join us. Stay. Forever. The ground beneath their feet trembled. Something ancient and malevolent stirred in itself, waking to defend its secrets. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan realized in horror they had reached the heart of Blackwood Inn, and the inn had chosen them. The air around the altar was suffocating. The candle's flame flickered violently, casting grotesque shadows across the walls. The whispers had risen into shrieks, a cacophony of pleading, laughter, and rage. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan stood frozen, hearts pounding, unable to look away from the hundreds of glowing eyes emerging from the darkness. Suddenly, the altar pulsed. The ancient symbols carved into the stone floor glowed faintly red, as if the inn itself had come alive. The ground beneath them shook violently, sending dust and debris raining down. Move, Emily shouted, but her voice seemed to vanish in the roar of the unseen spirits. From the shadows, the children lunged. Their forms were twisted too long, mouths stretching impossibly wide. They screeched, reaching with sharp claws. One passed through Jackson's chest. He screamed as icy pain shot through him, though nothing left a mark. Ryan grabbed Emily's arm. We have to get out. The gray man appeared on the stairs above them, arms raised, but his face was unreadable. His voice was calm but chilling. You can leave if you survive the trial. Emily's eyes widened. Trial? What trial? The whispers coalesced into a single, sinister chant. Sacrifice, survive, join, stay forever. The trio stumbled backward, trying to avoid the spectral hands grasping at them from the walls and floor. A shadow swept across the altar, shaping into a tall, skeletal figure, its face hidden beneath a hood. The candlelight revealed bony fingers pointing at them, the shadows twisting and writhing like living tendrils. Jackson screamed, What? What is that thing? Emily's hands shook as she scanned the altar. She noticed inscriptions glowing. Faintly, only by confronting the source can one escape. Source, the inn's heart, Emily whispered. We have to face it. The figure moved closer, and the temperature dropped sharply. Frost formed on their clothes, their breath misting like smoke. The spirits pressed in, screaming, clawing, pulling. Emily stumbled forward, touching the altar. The moment her fingers brushed the stone, the candle flared, and a blinding light erupted from the symbols. The shadows recoiled. The skeletal figure shrieked, retreating into the darkness. The whispers became intelligible, pleading, panicked, free us, save us. Emily realized what the gray man had meant. The spirits were trapped, bound to the inn's malevolent energy. If they could disrupt the source, maybe they could survive and release the children. Jackson and Ryan joined her, pressing their hands to the glowing symbols. Energy surged through them, painful and intoxicating. The walls shook violently. The candle's flame flared into a pillar of white light, burning away shadows. The inn screamed, a living, deafening roar. The ground split beneath their feet, and the ceiling threatened to collapse. Emily gritted her teeth. "Hold on. Whatever happens, don't let go." The spectral children shrieked not in anger, but in relief. Their twisted forms blurred and softened, faces returning to innocent smiles. The gray man's voice echoed one last time, "Survive, if you can." The ground shuddered violently, and the trio was thrown backward. Dust filled the air. When it cleared, the altar was shattered. The tunnel silent. The candle was extinguished. The spirits were gone. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Emily, gasping, looked at Jackson and Ryan. Did we do it?" Ryan shook his head, still trembling. I think we survived. But that place, it's alive. It's not over." A soft, echoing giggle drifted from the far corner of the chamber. The gray man was gone, but somewhere, deep beneath Blackwood in the heart of the building still throbbed, waiting for the next visitors. The air above the altar was still heavy, but the oppressive weight seemed slightly lifted. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan stumbled up the narrow staircase, hearts racing, lungs burning. Dust and debris clung to their clothes as they emerged from the basement into the main hall. At first it seemed calm. The chandelier swayed gently. The portraits hung in crooked silence. But the inn's presence was palpable, a subtle pressure against their minds, like it was watching and calculating. Jackson whispered, "We need to get to the front doors. Now." The trio hurried through the hallway, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Every creak of the wooden floors sounded like a footstep following them. The shadows along the walls flickered unnaturally, stretching toward them suddenly. The front door slammed shut with a deafening crash. The gray man appeared at the top of the staircase, his coat swirling in the shadows, face unreadable. "You think destroying the altar will free you?" he said, voice calm but menacing. "The inn doesn't let go so easily." Emily gritted her teeth. "We survived once. We'll survive again. Let us leave." The hallway stretched impossibly long. The walls seemed to pulse. Doors opened and closed on their own, each revealing fleeting glimpses of twisted figures, pale faces, and hollow eyes. Whispers rose around them, overlapping with the faint giggles of children echoing in the distance. Ryan grabbed Emily's arm. We're trapped." Jackson pointed to a side door. "Maybe the service exit. Maybe we can get outside that way." They sprinted down the corridor, shadows snapping toward them like living fingers. Each step seemed heavier, the floorboards threatening to swallow them. When they reached the side door, it wouldn't budge. A cold pressure pushed from the other side, as though something or someone was holding it closed. Emily's flashlight flickered. In the brief illumination, she saw them. Hundreds of small, pale hands emerging from the walls, pressing and clawing at them, trying to drag them back. "Push, push," Jackson yelled. They all shoved with everything they had, finally bursting through into the storm-lashed courtyard. Rain struck them like cold knives, lightning flashing across the ominous silhouette of Blackwood Inn. For a moment, they thought they were safe. But the shadows didn't stop. From the windows, hundreds of faces stared, pale and distorted. The gray man's voice whispered on the wind, "You may run, but the inn always waits." Emily shivered, pulling her coat tighter. "We need a car. We need to get out of here." They reached their vehicle, parked at the edge of the gravel driveway. Lightning illuminated the forest behind the inn. Something moved in the trees, a figure in white, watching, unmoving, unmortal. Ryan started the engine. The tires skidded across wet gravel as they sped onto the highway. Behind them, Blackwood Inn loomed, dark and silent once more. But as they glanced in the rearview mirror, shadows twisted in the windows, hundreds of small faces pressed against the glass, grinning, waiting. Jackson swallowed hard. We made it, but I don't think it's really gone. Emily nodded, eyes wide. It never will be. Not really. It's alive. It feeds on fear, and it doesn't forget. As the headlights cut through the storm, the inn faded behind them, but somewhere in the distance, a faint giggle echoed, promising that Blackwood Inn was far from finished. The storm had finally passed, leaving the highway slick and glimmering under the faint morning light. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan drove in tense silence, the distant silhouette of Blackwood Inn burned into their minds. Yet, despite the distance, a lingering unease clung to them like an invisible tether pulling them back. Ryan broke the silence. We need to know what that place really is. Why it traps people. Why the children. Everything. Emily nodded. We need answers, and I think the town might have them. They reached Havenbrook, a sleepy town with peeling paint on, old shops and streets eerily quiet, as if everyone was watching and waiting. At the local library, Emily unearthed a collection of newspaper clippings and town records, dating back to the early 1900s. The story was chilling. Blackwood Inn had been built atop a burial ground, originally a small orphanage burned to the ground in a mysterious fire. The children had never been accounted for. The first owner, a man named Silas Blackwood, was rumored to have been obsessed with capturing pure souls to fuel his supernatural experiments. Town records mentioned disappearances of travelers, fires, and unexplained deaths around the inn, but no one had dared to investigate. Jackson shivered. This is insane. All the warnings, the gray man, the spirits, it's all connected. Emily continued reading. There's a local legend. The inn itself is alive, a vessel for Silas Blackwood's spirit. The gray man. He might not be entirely human. Some say he's Silas's former apprentice, or maybe even Silas himself, cursed to watch over the inn for eternity. Ryan's face went pale. So, everything we saw, the children, the shadows, the alterates, all part of some eternal trap. Before Emily could answer, an old librarian approached, her voice trembling. You shouldn't be looking into that place. You don't know what you're dealing with. Blackwood Inn, it feeds. Once it chooses its prey, it never lets go. Emily asked, Do you know the gray man? The librarian nodded slowly. He's bound to the inn, but he also has his own agenda. He's not entirely evil, but he's not exactly good either. He tests those who enter, letting some leave, but many never make it out. Jackson swallowed hard. So when we survived, was he helping us? The librarian's eyes darkened, or he was simply amused. The inn chooses who lives, and he ensures the game continues. The trio left the library, minds racing. They realized that their encounter with the inn was far from over. Something had followed them. The car's rearview mirror caught a fleeting shadow, impossibly tall, lingering just at the tree line. Emily whispered, It's not done, not by a long shot. Later that night, in their motel room, Emily reviewed photos from their night at the inn. In each image, subtle figures appeared, faces in the windows, shadows moving in impossible ways. And in one photo, behind the gray man at the staircase, a faint hand stretched out of the wall, curling toward them. Ryan groaned. It's haunting us, even here. Jackson clenched his fists. We thought surviving meant we were safe. But maybe surviving is just the beginning. Maybe now, it wants something from us. Emily stared at the photo, her stomach turning. We have to stop it, or it will never stop. Somewhere, in the distance, the faint echo of children laughing carried on the wind, and somewhere else, unseen, the gray man watched, silent, waiting, calculating. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan spent the next 2 days researching, planning, and trying to rationalize what had happened. But the more they learned, the more the inn's influence crept into their lives. At night, shadows flickered in corners. Whispers echoed through empty streets. Their dreams were filled with the children's hollow eyes and the gray man's inscrutable smile. Finally, Emily spoke with resolve. We can't run anymore. The inn will keep following us, testing us, haunting us. If we want any peace, we need to go back and end it. Jackson hesitated. Go back? Are you insane? That place, it tried to kill us. Ryan shook his head. She's right. We survived once. Maybe we can finish what we started. But we have to be ready for everything. The trio drove back, toward Havenbrook, under a stormless, cold night sky. The inn appeared in the distance, towering, silent, waiting, as though it had never let them leave. The gravel driveway creaked under their tires, and the wind carried the faintest sound of children laughing. Inside, the inn seemed unchanged, eerily still, the chandelier swaying gently as if breathing. The front doors opened before them, no gray man in sight. The shadows inside twisted unnaturally, almost beckoning them forward. Emily led, flashlight cutting through the oppressive darkness. They descended to the basement once more, hearts hammering. The altar awaited, candles flickering in the center of the room, as if expecting them. From the shadows, a voice hissed, back again, brave or foolish. The gray man stepped forward, eyes glowing faintly. You return willingly, bold or doomed. Emily clenched her fists. We're here to end this. The ground trembled. Shadows poured from the corners, coalescing into dozens of twisted children, faces warped in endless screams. At the altar, symbols glowed brighter than ever, pulsing with malevolent energy. Ryan whispered, there, stronger than before. The inn knows, we're back. Emily took a deep breath. We disrupt the altar again. This time, fully. As they approached, the gray man raised a hand. Careful. Not all spirits wish to be freed. Some will cling to life or death. Suddenly, the shadows lunged. The children shrieked and clawed at them, some passing through their bodies like icy knives, others forming solid, terrifying shapes. One small hand grabbed Jackson's shoulder, nearly dragging him to the floor. Emily swung the flashlight, striking the nearest shadow. It dissipated into cold mist. The altar pulsed violently, and a spectral figure rose from its center. Silas Blackwood himself. Robes tattered, face skeletal, eyes glowing with dark fire. His voice echoed through the chamber. You dare return. You cannot undo what has been begun. These souls, mine, forever. Emily, trembling but determined, shouted, we will free them. The inn cannot hold them anymore. The ground shook violently. The shadows screamed. The trio pressed their hands onto the glowing altar. Energy surged through them, stronger than before, pulling at their bodies. The spirits writhed and screamed. Caught between freedom and the inn's grasp, Silas screamed, a sound like shattering glass. The gray man stepped aside, watching. It is your trial now. White light erupted from the altar, blinding the trio. Shadows shrieked and dissipated, spectral children's forms softening into gentle, relieved faces. Silas howled, his form dissolving into smoke and ash, leaving the chamber eerily silent. When the light faded, the basement was empty. The candles had burned out. The whispers were gone. The altar cracked. Lifeless stone now, just that stone. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan collapsed, gasping for breath. The gray man was gone. The inn felt quiet, almost still, as if holding its breath. Emily whispered, did we really do it? Ryan nodded slowly. I think. We freed them. All of them. And maybe the inn's power is gone. For now. Jackson swallowed hard. For now. But something tells me it will always be watching. Waiting. Outside, dawn broke. Blackwood Inn loomed in silence, its dark silhouette softened by the early light. The storm had passed. The road ahead was clear, but the memory of the shadows, the children, and the gray man lingered etched forever in their minds. And somewhere deep in the inn's core, a faint whisper echoed, almost playful, almost promising. Until next time. Dawn broke over Havenbrook, painting the sleepy town in a pale light. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan drove in silence, exhausted, bruised, and forever changed. Blackwood Inn had receded into the distance, its dark silhouette softened by the morning sun, but the memories remained sharp, vivid, and terrifying. Emily's hands trembled on the wheel. We actually did it. We freed them. Ryan shook his head, staring out the window. I don't know if it's over. That place. It feels alive, like it's still breathing. Jackson, normally the skeptic, was unusually quiet. His voice was hoarse when he finally spoke. The gray man, Silas, the children, I can't stop seeing them, hearing them, and that whisper, until next time. Emily swallowed hard. It's true. Blackwood Inn isn't just a building. It's something else, something eternal. And maybe it will always be waiting. 4 days after, the trio tried to return to normal life, but the shadows followed. At night, Emily could feel cold fingers brush her arm in the darkness. Jackson saw fleeting glimpses of pale children in mirrors. Ryan woke screaming, clutching his sheets, haunted by the hollow eyes of the spirits they had freed. One evening, Emily received an email with no sender. The subject line read, "You left something behind." Inside, a single image, a photograph taken during their final confrontation in the basement. It showed the trio pressing hands to the altar, the shadows swirling, but in the corner, a faint, gray figure stood, watching. And in the reflection of the candlelight, the trio saw tiny faces grinning from the walls behind them. Emily dropped the phone. It's still reaching out. Jackson swallowed hard. We survived, but some part of Blackwood Inn survived with us. Ryan clenched his fists. We can't go back. We'll never go back. But it's a reminder. Some places never let go. They just wait for the next souls to stumble inside. Weeks later, news broke of a young couple disappearing near Havenbrook. Witnesses claimed they saw a dark, towering inn appear out of nowhere, perched impossibly on a hill, its windows glowing faintly in the night. No one approached. No one investigated. Emily, Jackson, and Ryan watched from a distance. They knew the truth. Blackwood Inn was alive. It was patient, and it had not finished collecting souls. The gray man's faint silhouette appeared for a fleeting moment on a hilltop near the inn, watching, smiling, before vanishing into the shadows. Emily whispered to herself, a chill crawling down her spine. Some doors, once opened, never truly close. The wind carried a faint sound, barely audible, a promise, a warning, until next time. And somewhere deep in the forest, Blackwood Inn waited, silent, patient, eternal.